This podcast. Oh, error, error, error occurred. Set intro video. I'm gonna try again. This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. All right, welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. We are the official podcast of the Red Towel Trust Collective, and we're a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. As always, make sure you're following us on all of our social media accounts, especially our YouTube channel where our video episodes come out every week, and then our X/Twitter account where we're posting daily news and information that's relevant to the WKU world. Got Tyler here with me, man. We've got another episode of the position breakdown series to dive into, man. You ready to get into it?
Always ready to get into it, boy. Let's go.
But before we dive into the linebackers today, we've got to get caught up with our Red Towel wrap up, which catches us up with all the news that we've missed since we last recorded. So, Tyler, hit us with that Red Towel wrap up.
All right, so starting off, Lady Toppers basketball got a commitment from Lola Bond.
Yeah, the Lady Toppers, due to graduation and some girls transferring out, that right now, as I was writing that note, I was like, well, let me go look at the online roster. There's 8 Lady Toppers on the online roster right now. Maybe that's not fully updated, but we definitely have some slots to fill. Lola was not included on that, so that would make at least 9 that we have that I know of. But we still got some slots to fill. Summertime, I'm sure there's probably a few others that haven't been officially announced because I know they have started practicing. So, welcome to the Hill, Lola.
And talking about newcomers, WKU baseball got a commitment from Nathan Lawson. He's a pitcher from EKU.
Yeah, good pickup. He was on the 6-4 analytics portal board. It was a good pickup for WKU baseball. As we always say, the portal giveth, the portal taketh away. And in this case, we've had a lot of pitchers. I think we've had 16 pitchers so far enter the transfer portal. So obviously we're going to get some of those back. So welcome to the Hill, Nathan.
If you thought we were done talking about baseball, you're wrong. Ryan Weidman, he competed in the MLB draft scouting combine.
Yeah, big props, big opportunity for Ryan Weidman. And I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a second because every time I've seen Ryan Weidman mentioned, participating in the MLB draft combine, it says Clemson outfielder Ryan Weidman. Yes, Ryan Weidman entered the transfer portal after the season ended. Conference USA Player of the Year, Ryan Weidman for WKU Hilltoppers. He entered the transfer portal. He has committed to Clemson. He has never played a game at Clemson. He probably will never play a game at Clemson. He's going to be a top 100 draft pick in the MLB draft. So he is not Clemson outfielder Ryan Weidman. He is WKU outfielder Ryan Weidman that has taken some posing pictures in a Clemson Tigers uniform. So best of luck to WKU outfielder Ryan Weidman.
Well, I hope you're not done talking about WKU outfielder Ryan Weidman because he was named the ABCA first team All-American.
Yeah, definitely huge props for Mr. Weidman. I mean, he's been on a couple third-team All-American lists, and now to get a first-team All-American nod, I mean, just hats off to a great season that he had with this. He's obviously going to get a chance to play at the next level with this impending MLB draft coming up. So definitely big congratulations to Ryan.
Still staying on the baseball train, baseball assistant coach Rob Foreigner is being inducted into the Illinois Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, assistant coach Rob, he's our transfer portal guru, really helps us stay in touch with, who's out there, who we need to sign. But he was a longtime coach in Illinois at Wabash Valley. So pretty cool. I think this is 2 episodes in a row now where we had Mark Rarden was getting inducted into the Iowa Western Hall of Fame this summer. We announced that on the last Red Tail wrap up, and now our one of our assistant coaches, Rob Fournier, is being inducted into the Illinois Sports Hall of Fame. So definitely, just huge kudos to our coaching staff. I think that says a lot about the success that we've seen over the last few years. So definitely, congratulations to Coach Rob.
And then pitching coach Dylan Napoleon, he took a job at Illinois University.
Yeah, I think the writing was kind of on the wall with this one when we did see that flurry of pitchers that entered the transfer portal. Like I said, I think it's 16. It might be more than that. I have a tally of it on my notes app, but it's a lot of pitchers that we've lost to the transfer portal. And Coach Napoleon was a really, really good. He's a young, up and coming pitching coach. Eventually, he's going to get an opportunity to be a head man somewhere down the line. He'd really done really good things for our staff. That's probably been the biggest key to our turnaround over the last 3 years has been, where our pitching has gone to where it used to be. We used to not be able to hold on to leads. Our relief pitchers, our closers would just, if we did have a lead, they'd give it up. And here lately, the last couple of years, we've just been a lot better in that department. And that comes with our entire staff just recruiting, but then you also have to develop those guys. And a lot of that fell onto the shoulders of Coach Dylan Napoleon. So best of luck at Illinois.
And that concludes the Red Tail wrap up. Moff, back to you.
Yeah, good stuff. Even though it's summertime, all the sports are ended. Nothing is actively playing right now. Still just a lot of stuff to share and talk about there. And I think that's awesome. And, that's why I always suggest to anyone listening to definitely follow us on Twitter because, that Red Towel wrap up, I literally just take from our Twitter timeline. Is just what we've missed since we last recorded. So if you're not following us on X, that's kind of our main social media account. You're kind of missing all this stuff in real time when it's happening. You can get caught up here, Red Towel wrap up once a week. That's great. But, in real time, we're sharing that stuff as soon as it hits the news cycle and just letting it be known to the Hilltopper world. But we do have another episode of the 2025 position breakdown series to jump into. We are talking about the linebackers this week. And as always, I like to mention that we lean on the Phil Steele College Football Preview magazine for basically all of our stats. The guys that have left, the guys that are here. That's just who we lean on. We think Phil does a phenomenal job. He, probably gives as much attention to the G5 schools as he does to P5 schools. So we really appreciate his work, and that's kind of our college football Bible. That being said, I'm not always going to agree with Mr. Steele, especially when it comes to these position group rankings. He does have our linebacker group ranked the number 8 unit in Conference USA. And the same thing I said about the defensive line when we were ranked number 12. While I don't agree with it, as I got to diving into the numbers and the people that we lost, etc., I understood it. That doesn't mean I agree with it. I think we filled a lot of holes with guys that we added to the roster, but some of those are just unknown entities that we don't know how much they're going to contribute. But we did lose a lot of key pieces, and I understand the rating of number 8 in Conference USA. However, I don't agree with it. I think we're going to be much better as far as depth and production from the linebacker room than we had been in previous years. So first off, let's talk about who we lost from the linebacker room. And we start with Terrence Ellis. We lost, he is done due to eligibility. Sebastian Benjamin has run out of eligibility. Chandler Matthews has run out of eligibility. Keandre Williams ran out of eligibility. Devon Lynch ran out of eligibility. Kylan Guidry, he went in, applied for the NFL draft and was an undrafted free agent and is currently with the Chargers. Darius Thomas, he transferred. He now has transferred twice, actually. He transferred in the early portal window and went to Louisville. And then he entered the portal again after the spring and is currently at Oklahoma State. So best of luck, Darius. Then we also lost Reginald Allen Jr. He's went to Bryant University. We lost Bailey Zappi's little brother, Trent Zappi, entered the transfer portal, and he went to Houston Baptist, a little closer to home. Legacy player. Obviously Bailey's little brother. He's going to be a star there just by name alone. Then we also lost Reed Jamerson. He transferred to Minot State. We lost Ellie George. He's transferred, but I haven't seen that he's landed anywhere yet. We lost Montrese Smith. He transferred here in the early portal window in December from Duke. And then after the spring portal window opened back up, he transferred again and has landed at Austin P. So never played for us. Did some practicing, went from Duke to us, and now is at Austin P in Clarksville. And then the last linebacker that we lost from last year is Nathan Griffin. And from what I could find, I don't believe he's playing football anymore. He's not on our roster. Didn't see that he entered the portal. Didn't see that he's landed anywhere. So I don't believe that he's playing football going forward as it stands right now. If that changes, obviously we'll talk about that in the future if he comes back to our roster. But um, again, a lot of production, a lot of guys that contributed over the last couple of years. So I understand, Phil Steele. I will give you a break. I understand the number 8 ranking. I don't agree with it, but I understand. Tyler, talk about these guys and who are you kind of looking at as far as who we're going to miss this coming year from the linebacker room?
Well, I mean, I think all the ones that you said that ended with eligibility, they are all like some of the top tacklers on the team. That they at least made the list. Though I think the exceptions would be Darius Thomas, who he was also one of the main tacklers on in the linebacker room on the team. If you look at Reginald Allen, Trent Zappi, Reed Jamerson, George Montrez Smith, and Nathan Griffin, they really didn't play that much or at all. So their stats are very limited. But then you look at Terrence Ellis, Sebastian Benjamin, Chandler Matthews. He was actually number 5 or 6 on the team. He had 59 total tackles last year. Matthews did. And then you look at Sebastian Benjamin. He ended the year with 53 tackles, 3 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss. He also had 5 quarterback hurries. So most of them players, the ones who stayed, and then also, of course, Kylan Goodry. You just hate to see him go. But, I mean, I think Williams, Devin Lynch, Chandler Matthews, Sebastian Benjamin, Terrence Ellis, I think all of them are going to be deeply missed because they had the experience. They were here for, long stints, and that's things. Those are players that the players coming up behind them could look up to. They had the experience. They knew what to do, and losing them is definitely going to hurt.
One thing that I really recall us talking about a lot over the last couple of years is anytime we do a game recap and talk about the leading tacklers from the game, the defensive scheme that we run a 4-2-5 scheme where we have 4 people on the line of scrimmage, we have 2 linebackers, and we have 5 defensive backs. We never have a leading tackler in our game. You never have a guy that has 12, 13, 14 tackles. Like if you look at box scores across the nation, teams that run a 3-3-5, have 3 linebackers. Usually you have a middle linebacker that's kind of patrolling, kind of playing center field, looking for those A gaps, B gaps, opening up, and just getting a lot of tackles just on running plays or those short little screen plays, whatever it may be. I think that's one thing that's can be advantageous to us with all this turnover is that we're not leaning or depending on any one guy. Because usually whenever we do our game recaps, we have a bunch of guys with 5 tackles, 6 tackles, 7 tackles, a bunch of guys with 4 or 5. It's all kind of spread out. It's not dependent on any one single player, and I think a lot of that's because of the scheme that we run. And I think that makes it easier to turn over players. So yes, we lost a lot of valuable players that played here and were impactful, but we have some guys returning, and then we also added some good pieces that I think we're going to plug right in and not miss a beat from the linebacker position. So talk about some of those returning pieces. We have Lofton Howard. He's number 16 on the roster. He's a redshirt sophomore, 6'4", 235 pounds. Then we have Eli Jones. He's number 33. He's a redshirt junior, 6'1", 233 pounds. Karan Hayward, number 34, redshirt sophomore, 6'5", 234 pounds. And then we have Miller Malone, number 46. He's a sophomore, 6'2", 208 pounds. And then lastly, Zachary Menace, number 48, redshirt freshman, 6'3", 228 pounds. So not a lot of pieces returning there. The thing that kind of jumps out at me is they're all young. Redshirt sophomore, sophomore, redshirt freshman. Um, Eli Jones being a redshirt junior is the one exception there. The oldest guy returning. Besides the guys that we added to the roster through the transfer portal. So, Tyler, what about these guys returning? Are you expecting anything from them?
Surely they had to pick something up from Chandler and the rest of them guys like Terrence, but I mean the guys have good size on them. I mean, if you look at Lofton Hired, he's 6'4", 235. Uh, Eli Jones, I mean, I'm sure he's with him being the oldest return player, I'm sure he's going to kind of set the mood for the room of the returning players. Now when transfers come in, you're going to have some seniors, some redshirt seniors, and everything like that are bringing their experience in. But I feel like for the returning players, some of them will probably set out again this year and probably not get as much playing time thanks to the transfer portal. But I feel like the guys are going to be setting right to learn a lot and to definitely benefit from it.
Yeah, I think a lot of those guys, their opportunity to shine because they are still younger. Especially when you get to talk about these other guys that we added. A lot of these guys are going to have to make their name kind of on special teams. That's really kind of what it boils down to. Is they're going to have to be special teams guys, make a name for themselves if injury or whatever happens, and they get an opportunity to, shuffle into a linebacker spot, actively on the field and next man up. That's what you've got to be ready. But I think several of those guys, like you mentioned, I think Lofton, Eli, Karan Hayward, Miller Malone, I think any of those guys can be ready to see the field at any time. Um, Wide eyes. Turn the lights on. Let's go. Let's get out there. Next week, let's talk about who we added, mostly from the transfer portal. Then, obviously, a few true freshmen that we've signed from the high school ranks. We added Dominique Oliver. He's number 30. He's a redshirt senior, 6'3", 250 pounds. He transferred here from San Diego State University. We added Keenan Lofton. He's number 32. He's a junior. 6'2", 225 pounds from Jones College. We added Zach Smith, number 42. He's a redshirt freshman, 6', 218 pounds from SMU. We added Josiah Knight, number 45. He's 6'2", 225 pounds from Mississippi State. We added Jordan Donald. He's number 22, a true freshman, 6'2", 210 pounds. Elijah Rumpf, number 35, a true freshman, 6', 204 pounds. And then lastly, Brandon Thomas, number 41. He's a freshman. He's 6'3", 198 pounds. So Tyler, what about these guys that we added to the mix of our, also our returners, and they're not projected to start yet, but what about these guys that we added to the roster? What are you expecting them to contribute to the linebacker room?
Well, you look at Dominique Oliver. When he was at South Dakota State University, uh, he played in 33 games. He had 18 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 22 tackles for loss, and that was from 22 to 24. Um, then you got you got some of the players like Kenan Lofton, also coming from Jones College, and you got some of these like those two guys coming from South Dakota State University and Jones College. Those ain't household name universities, so that they had to make their bones and they had to pay their dues. And I'm glad they're getting this shot because some of these players, that's all they need is a shot, and they're going to impress you. Then you got guys from SMU like Zach Smith and Josiah Knight from Mississippi State. Josiah Knight, he only played in one game last year as a true freshman. So, I mean, I don't rightly know what to expect from him or Zach Smith, seeing how he's a redshirt freshman. So, I mean, he really didn't see the field too much neither. Uh, but they did come from good football colleges that have good traditions. So I'm expecting that they pick something up from that, and they just weren't happy with their playing time. So they was like, you know what, I'm gonna go somewhere where I can try to shine. And so they're also looking for that just that shot. That's all these players want. Then you got, the actual freshmen coming in like Jordan Donald, and Elijah Rumpf. Both of them have good size on them, as well as Brandon Thompson, 6'3", 198. I think he may be the smallest linebacker we got in the terms of weight, but I feel like you wait a few years, you put some weight on him. I mean, he may come out and be a beast, but just because someone comes from a P5 school, um, that they still have to prove themselves, and I'm sure they will, or else they wouldn't be playing football. These guys are hard nosed. These guys want to play. These guys want to hit somebody. Uh, so I'm glad we got these guys. I'm just waiting because Dominique, Dominique and Kenan Lofton, they both have some good stats, and I'm just waiting to see what they can do on the field.
Yeah, when I look at the list of who he added, I see two guys that have played a lot of football: Dominique Oliver and Keenan Lofton. Both of those guys, redshirt senior and junior. One JUCO, one redshirt senior, fifth year player now. So those guys have played a lot of football. They're going to be ready, willing, and able to rotate in and play a lot of snaps if needed. Then I see two guys in Zach Smith and Josiah Knight with just a ton of upside and potential to them. I know the staff was really high on Zach Smith when we landed him from SMU. And then anytime you can sign an SEC linebacker, we've had a really good success rate with some SEC guys over the last, 4 or 5 years when we've had him on the roster. Don't know if he'll play a ton this year, but to have him on the roster, get him familiar with our system, and then obviously there's going to be some upperclassmen that leave after this season. Hopefully, if he sticks around, there's going to be an opportunity for him to step up into a bigger role in the future. And then obviously the three freshmen that we talked about, I think all three of those guys likely redshirt. I don't think they see the field. That would not be, a best case scenario to be throwing true freshmen out there, at the linebacker position. But as the season goes, who knows, injuries, etc. Hopefully that doesn't have to occur though. But I really like who he added. That's why when I said I didn't agree with Phil Steele, because I really like the mix of guys that we have returning and the guys that we added. And a lot of that is because of our system. Like I said earlier, we're not dependent on any one guy to be out there making 12 to 15 tackles a game. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that can be in there, rotate in as needed, and can, share, distribute, however you want to look at that, those tackles. Yeah, everybody's going to have 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, whatever that number is. And I think we've got plenty of bodies to fill those needs and be on the field making plays. And then lastly, we've got to talk about our two projected starters. And that would be our wheel linebacker. We have Jalen Wester. He is number 40. He is a senior, 6 foot, 225 pounds. He transfers to Western Kentucky from Colorado, played for Prime Time. Not a bad player, I think, to pick up if you were good enough to go play for Dion, and you kind of know the energy he brings to recruiting. I think you can probably play at Western Kentucky in Conference USA if you can play at Colorado. And then starting at middle linebacker is Anthony Brackenridge. He is a returning player. He's number 31. He's a senior, 6'2", 225 pounds. So again, a couple of guys that are both seniors, both experienced, really good size on both of them. I think they just go to complement even more, the players we have returning, the players we added, and then we have a couple of just known dogs that are going to be the starters, that are going to be the main guys taking the first snaps of the game. Obviously, they will rotate out as needed when they need breaks, etc. But I really like the two guys that we have projected to start. Tyler, what are your thoughts on those guys?
I mean, first you look at Jalen Wester, and not only did he play at Colorado, he also played at FIU for 2 years, and he had 8 starts, 112 tackles while he was there, and then he played 11 games at Colorado, and he had 15 tackles last year for Colorado. So I think he is a really good pickup. I'm glad we got him in. I mean, he's a good size, 6 foot, 225. And you're right. If he played for Prime Time, he had to have that dog in him. Then you look at Anthony Brackenridge. Last year, he had 23 tackles. I think he had a half tackle for loss, and he had 2 quarterback hurries. and he was sitting behind some guys who were putting up numbers like Sebastian Benjamin, Chandler Matthews, um, Darius Thomas, and all of them, and just learn sitting there and having to fight for that spot. I feel like he's going to be a major player this year in the linebacker room. I'm really glad we was able to keep him. I think he's going to show up and show out this year. And I'm expecting big things from Anthony Breckenridge.
All right, now let's jump into the questions that we ask of every position group that we're going to cover. So the first question, Tyler, is who is going to be the hardest player to replace from last year's team?
See, I'm torn on this one because there is a bunch of there's a bunch of options here. Um, just going on the stat lines, I'm going to have to go with Chandler Matthews. 59 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 pass breakup, and 3 quarterback hurries. And I remember being at the games, and if I had to leave early because I had to work early, I had to work early in the morning. If it was like one of them weird late night games, I was always hearing his name on the radio as I was driving home. So I am. I think it's going to be hard to replace Chandler Matthews.
Yeah, Chandler's not a bad pick. He was a tackling machine. I remember the first time I saw him in the spring game, I was like, "Who the heck is that white boy right there?" Because he was jacked. He was a big old boy, and he backed it up with his play on the field. Man, he was a physical player and went out there and hit somebody. I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go with Kylan Guidry. He entered the transfer portal, entered the NFL draft. Did have eligibility left, could have come back, but end up getting a undrafted free agent call up and going to the Chargers and is currently in camp with them. Obviously, we hope he sticks and becomes the next pro top. I think we have 15 or 16 guys on NFL rosters right now, which is awesome. One of the tops in the group of 5, one of the tops in the entire nation. All 136 college football teams, but just really representing WKUL. But I think Kylan Guidry, just a really, really good kind of a hybrid, defensive end / linebacker player that was really disruptive and made a lot of plays for WKU over the last couple of years. He's one that's going to be tough to replace. Darius Thomas, I considered him as well. Chandler, I considered him. Terrence Ellis considered him as well. Just a lot of guys that played meaningful snaps here. But I'm going to give it to the guy that's in the NFL currently. He's going to be pretty tough to replace, obviously, if he went on to the pro level. So give me Kylan Guidry as my hardest to replace. Tyler, who have you got for your breakout player in this year's linebacker room?
I think I'm going to steal you, dude. I'm not for sure because we don't share notes. I'm going with Jalen Wester. I feel like, with his 112 tackles from FIU, then you throw in his playing time at Colorado. I feel like for the newcomers, he's going to be a hell of a player.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Jalen's going to bring a lot of energy. Yeah, I had forgotten that he played at FIU when you mentioned it earlier, but when you play for FIU, you're going to have a lot of opportunity for tackles because teams are just running and passing all over them. So a little bit of inflated stats from the FIU days, but the fact that he went on to Colorado and now is here at WKU, I think he's going to be a player that's very impactful, projected starter. Just really good size on 6 foot, 225 pounds, going to have a lot of speed. I feel like we've missed, a lot of that lateral side to side speed, not just between the hashes, but, all the way to the boundary. Sometimes we kind of miss those guys that can, run down plays that are extended out to the sideline and make a play or a tackle or just stop it short, whatever it may be. And I think Jalen Wester's exactly that kind of guy that can help um, fill that role. So I'm really excited. I think he's going to be my breakout player. Who have you got for your MVP of the linebacker room?
And see, here I'm torn. You got Dominique Oliver. I mean, he's 6'3". That's 250. That's big. That is a hard hitting man right there. I would hate to be at the to be sitting there trying to run and he just come up and spear you. But then you also got Anthony Brackenridge, who is a known known asset to us. I know what he can do. He's been in the system. He knows what he's expecting. Um, dang, this is tough. Um, I guess I'm gonna go with with what's known to me, and I'm gonna go with Anthony Brackenridge.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going with Anthony Brackenridge as well, and basically for the same reasons. He's kind of the established veteran in the locker room with the linebackers and that position group. Knows the system, knows the expectations. Probably is going to know where everybody else needs to be when he's on the field. Kind of that captain on the field. Um, and I have really high hopes for him. I think he's going to have a heck of a year. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say he was like a spring game defensive MVP during the spring session this year at practice. So I think that could be something that kind of catapults him into just a really good fall season. Obviously, fall camp coming up in not long, and then the season kicking off August 23rd with that Week 0 game against Sam Houston. So um, I really think Anthony Brackenridge is going to kind of be the leader of that room. One of the older players, and obviously one of the um, projected starters, and a senior in the room. So I think that's going to say a lot about his leadership and what to expect from him on the field as far as letting his play talk for him. Tyler, what's your bold prediction for the linebacker room?
All right, so you said Phil still has us listed at number 8 in Conference USA. What's crazy is the number ones are in a three-way tie. You got Liberty, Delaware, and Kennesaw State all for tied for number one in the position linebacker position for number one. That's to me, that's crazy. I mean, you got the Delaware Blue Chickens. I just don't. I don't know enough about them, but I will talk a little trash to them. And Kennesaw State, I think that's crazy. Right now, we're stationed at number 8. I think by the end of the year, we will be. I'm gonna go 2 on that. Um, if not 2, maybe 3. 3 at the lowest. I feel like 8 was kind of disrespectful. Yes, we did lose a lot, but I mean, Phil should know that Helton can bring them in. Now, granted, Phil says we're on par to be with the last 2 seasons on our linebacker output. But I feel like this year could be different, and I'm excited to see what our linebackers will do.
Yeah, like I talked about earlier, I think our defensive scheme kind of makes it hard to kind of compare our linebacker group to others where you see players that pile up these big gaudy stats of a lot of tackles solo and assisted. So I think it's hard to judge how good our linebacker room is going to be except by looking at rushing yards allowed. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with our not only our defensive line but our secondary as well, because we play that 5-man secondary. A lot of time we have at least 2 of those guys that are kind of playing up downhill for short passes or the run game. So I think our linebackers have to be judged a lot, not on tackles per se, but on being able to stop the run. And I think last year, I think we all know that that was a big time Achilles heel. We were just getting gashed game after game. Couldn't get off the field on third downs, couldn't stop anybody from running for 250 300 yards against us. I think that's a stat that we have to see improve. We need to see that number get closer to only allowing you know 200 yards a game would be a pretty big improvement for our defensive side of the ball. So I think that's my bold prediction is we're going to see a big, just an improvement in our run defense. And it's not only going to be the linebackers. I think it's going to be all 3 levels of the defensive front, but it has to be, all hands on deck. And I think the linebackers are going to be a big part of that. Like we said earlier, we spread out those tackles amongst a lot of players on our defense, and we're going to rotate guys in. So I think the linebackers are going to be a big part of us improving in our run defense, which has to happen if we want to take that next step this year and play again for the conference championship, but not only play for it, but go out and win it this year. So I think that's something that um, will be hard to measure. Yeah, I think, like you said, we'll be better than the number 8 linebacker room in the conference. Top 3, top 4 would not surprise me, even though it'll be hard to measure and weigh that. But I think the proof will be in the pudding. If we're that much better in stopping the run this year, that's going to lead to getting our defense off the field, our offense back on the field. And I think we both have a pretty high expectation for what our offense is going to do this year with a new quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, plenty of wide receiver and running back weapons. I think we're both high on how many points per game we're going to score. We got to let it be on the field, though. You can't score points if they're not on the field. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a big improvement from the run defense side. And really looking forward to that coming to fruition because I think we've got the guys on that side of the ball, ready to lead us to just better production, better output, which will lead to more wins and hopefully a really special season. Kind of what I'm looking forward to. So, but that does wrap up another position breakdown series. Really enjoy, like we always say, really enjoy this exercise, getting to talk about every single player on the roster, whether you departed and are no longer with us, whether we added you to the roster as a portal or a high school signee, and if you're a projected starter or a bench player, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about you and what we hope and expect from your input and output this year on the field. So I'm really looking forward to it. Kind of helps pass the time as we're, a little over 2 months away now from the kickoff of game 1 and game 0, week 0 this year against Sam Houston. So, at least we don't have to wait until that August 30th day. We get that August 23rd kickoff date. That's a few days before my birthday. So it'll be an early birthday present to have that Hilltopper W. Looking forward to that. But man, Tyler, really enjoyed this one. Really enjoyed talking about our linebackers and our whole team in general. But go ahead, hit us with your final words and take us on out of here.
Yeah, seeing the field still put us at number 8 was kind of disheartening to me. I feel like we yes, we have had the Achilles heel, like you said, of stopping the run. But you also look at some of our players; they have had pass breakups, they've had quarterback hurries, and you're right. Kind of the tackles per game is evenly spread between defensive backs and linebackers and defensive line. There's not one guy out there that basically controls them all, so that's good. But this summertime we've gotten a lot of rain this year. I feel like I seen in the weather that maybe in South Central Kentucky it ain't supposed to be raining, so I get to get out, mow the yard, get to enjoy some time outside, which would be nice. But man, it's going to be nice to be back in Houcher Smith Stadium to watch the Tops play this season. I'm excited for what Coach Eldon's going to put on the field, and I hope a lot of the fans are out there to watch and enjoy it with us. But with that, Moff, who has better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops, y'all.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.